DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin with DreAllDay.com. Topic of this video is being in the damn room. Now, this is something that if you are listening to my podcast, it's called Work on Your Game. Comes out every day for free on all your favorite podcasting apps. We put it on YouTube as well. Or you're familiar with my work at all, you know I'm a huge advocate of being in the room. Let me explain what this means, and let me explain why I'm talking about this again in this video. Being in the room means you getting in proximity to people who, just by law of association, will help you advance yourself further and faster. That's what being in the room means. Doesn't mean being in any room. It means getting around people. Again, it's using the law of proximity. The law of proximity states you want to get as close as possible to the people who are already living how you want to live, doing what you want to do, and already have what you want to have. So if you're an athlete and you want to get in a great athletic shape, the way you will use the law of proximity is to get around other athletes who are already better than you and performing at a higher level than you. If your focus is making money, the way you will use the law of proximity is to hang around people who have more money than you and are making more money than you and know more about generating money than you do. That's the law of proximity. So if you're a parent, you want to get better at parenting, or you got a relationship, you want to have a stronger, healthier relationship with your significant other, get around people who are already doing the thing that you want to do better than you're doing it by your estimation, and staying around them, and understand that this proximity, this is something that you pay for. You pay for access. There are three things you should invest money in: information, access, and assets. 1, 2, 3. Information, access, and assets. This is the access part. You should pay to get access to people who know things that you do not know. Why? Because the money that you will invest to get the access to these people, you will make more on the back end than you have to invest on the front end. So that means if I got to pay $1,000 to get access to you, and you know some stuff that can help me step my game up when it comes to my performance, when it comes to my relationship, when it comes to my money making, when it comes to my business, whatever I'm going to do and step my game up is going to be worth more than the $1,000 that I paid to get access to you. So in other words, I'm making a great investment, because everything we do is an investment, folks. So nobody can abstain from the game of investing. You're either making good investments or bad investments, because every day you're investing time. It doesn't matter what are you investing your time in, because 24 hours goes by every day regardless of what you do, right? So what kind of investments are you making? And being in the room, and why you need to be in the room, is because the amount of time it would take you to achieve your desired outcomes on your own without being in the room with anybody who's playing at a higher level is infinitely longer than the amount of time it would take if you would just get around some people who already know exactly what you need to do, already have the energy that you need to have, they already have the mindset that you don't yet have, they already know the processes that you don't yet know, and they're already executing in ways that you are not yet executing. This is why it is worth the investment to be in the room. And understand something when it comes to investment, whether we're talking time, money, attention, energy, and focus. Let's talk time and money. These are the two ones that people usually use as excuses when they don't make investments. I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Understand the time goes by either way. So anytime somebody says they don't have the time, that's nonsense. Everybody has the same amount of time. So nobody has more time than anybody else. We all got the same amount of time. So time is not really your reason for not doing something. Somebody says they don't have the money. Here's the thing with money. The amount of money you have right now, like take whatever amount you have right now, 10 years from now, most of that money is going to be gone one way or another. No matter what you do with it, it's going to be gone one way or another. I'm not saying it won't be replaced. If you got $10,000 to your name right now, that $10,000, that exact $10,000 will be gone. It may be replaced with more. Maybe it'll be replaced with 100. Maybe it'll be replaced with 50. Maybe it'll be replaced with a different 10. But that 10 that you have today is not going to be the same 10 that you have 10 years from now. That's the whole point. It's all going to go, which means your money's going to get used one way or another. It's just a matter of how it's getting used. So what you really need to think about here is, where does it make sense for me to get in the room so that I can step up my outcomes, my results, much faster than what I'm doing right now? And everybody who's listening to me, there are some outcomes that you could achieve a lot faster and a lot more efficiently if you got in the room with somebody who knows something that you don't know. Even if, let's be clear about this, even if you got into the room with somebody who, let's say you think maybe they're not the best in the world at what it is that they do, but you know they're better than you, does it make sense to be in a room? I would say yes. Why? Because even if this person may not have all the answers that you need, they got some of them. and they got more answers than you got. So wouldn't it make sense to be in a room? Wouldn't it make sense to be in a room with somebody who has more answers than you have? If your goal is having answers, wouldn't that just make sense? See, I go to events, I go to conferences, I read books of people who I don't believe they have all the answers that I need. I wouldn't put this person as my sensei, has all the information that I'm ever going to need on a certain subject. But if I know they have some information that I don't have, or I believe they probably know something, or they have some insight that I could benefit from outside of my own knowledge, then I'm willing to invest. I'll go to their conference, I'll go to your event, I'll sign up for your course, I'll read your book. Why? Because that time or money investment that I'm going to make is going to get me something that I didn't otherwise have. So I'm willing to make that investment. The challenge for some of you is that you're not making the investment because you're looking at somebody like, or you're figuring that you have everything that you could possibly get from a person, or you know everything that you need to know from that individual. Here's the point. Here's the thing about knowing things. You don't know something until you've done it. And you don't really know it until you can teach it. And you don't truly know it until you can sell it. In other words, you can get somebody to pay you to give that information out. Let me say those three things again. You don't know something until you've done it. So somebody told you something and you heard it and you recorded it, you wrote it down, you understand it, and you can repeat it. That does not mean you know it. That means you consumed it. That's all it means. You don't know it until you've actually done it. When you have executed on what somebody said, or what you read in somebody's book, or what you heard on their show, or what they said at their conference, until you have done it yourself, executed and achieved the outcome, you don't really know it. You don't truly know it until you can teach it to another person, until you can go and give somebody that same information and they understand it at the same level that you understand it, and they can go execute on it and get a result. You don't truly know it until you're teaching it. And you don't seriously know something until you can charge money for it. That's when you seriously know something. When you can charge somebody else money for that same knowledge or information or insight that you claim to know. You don't know it unless it's being executed on. So because you consume some information from somebody, or somebody gave you info, or you've been to their event, or you read the book 10 times, or you took the course, or whatever passive consumption of information you have done, means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. All right, that only place in the world where passive consumption of information gets you credit is in school. That's the only place in the world where it means something to passively consume information. Otherwise, it means nothing. What does this car do? In the real world, you got to actually go and do something. Then you got to teach it, and then you got to charge money for it. So, any of you who's been considering getting into the room with anybody, anyone else you're considering getting into the room with, and you are maybe hesitating to get in the room because you're like, well, I watched this person on YouTube, like you watch me on YouTube, or I listened to this person's podcast, or I read their book, or whatever information you consume from this person, and you feel like, well, I heard everything that this person has to say, or at least you think you have, so that means you shouldn't get in the room because you feel like you quote unquote know everything that this person has shared. Let me ask you a question. Have you done it? Have you executed on what this person said? Have you produced the same results that this person has produced? Because if you haven't, then you don't actually know it. Second, can you teach it to somebody else? Can you teach somebody else the same things that you are claiming to know? If you can't teach it, you don't really know anything until you can teach it to another person. That's how if you really want to know if you know something, try to teach it to somebody else. That's when we find out what you really know. Because that's your ability to communicate it and make it make sense. And the third thing is, can you charge money for it? Those are the 3 levels of really knowing things, and there are actually 5 levels. I got a podcast episode where I talked about that, by the way, but I'm giving you the basics. So the next time you're considering getting into the room with somebody, the reason why you want to get into the room with anyone who's playing the game at a higher level than you is the law of proximity, the law of association, just getting around the energy of somebody who's doing things that you haven't done yet. Notice the key word there, doing things, not knowing things, doing things, not consuming, not reading, not watching, doing. That's the level that you need to get at. And if you are considering investing and getting into the room with one of those individuals, you need to get in the room. Until you can teach the same thing that they're teaching, and until you can charge the same amount that they're charging and get it the same way that they're getting it for the same things that you claim that you know. These are the levels of the game, folks. All right, there's levels to this. So you need to look at yourself, look at your outcomes, not what you know, but your quote unquote know, your outcomes. Do your outcomes measure up to what you claim to know? Because if your outcomes do not reflect what you say you know, then there's a disconnect there. And the way you close that gap is to get around people who have already closed that gap. And you put your money on the table, get into the room with those individuals, and that's when you start making real change. And that's when you start taking yourself to a real new level. And listen, a lot of you want to get to another level. I talk to people every day who say that they want to get to another level. But when it comes time to do the things necessary to actually get to that level, your subconscious mind comes in and starts fighting against it. And you go right back to your old habits, the same habits that got you to the point of knowing that you want to step your game up, but then you end up staying in the same spot. So the question is not, do you want to get to another level? I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, if you watched all the way through this far, there's another level that you want to get to. The question is, are you willing to take the steps necessary to actually get there? Or do you want to just keep this at the level of, you're talking about it? That's a question that I can't answer for you. That's a question you got to answer. But I'm laying it all out for you. Let me tell you what you can do if you're serious about this. First of all, I send out a text every day called the Daily Motivation, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point. Text me at my number, 305-384-6894. And every day when that Daily Motivation goes out, you'll be receiving it. That's number one. The number is down below in the description. And number two, Work on Your Game University. That's the place where I do all my coaching. You get access to all my best frameworks and all my best trainings on mindset, strategy, systems, execution for your personal and professional life. That is at workonyourgameuniversity.com. The link to that is also down below in the description to this video. Work on your game. Dre all day.